20% of global imports and exports, which is about 4,000 billion euros every year. That's a lot of trade going on. And in particular, it has a transparent legal system. So especially if you're a young company, you're trying to do business, you're worried about your intellectual property, you're worried about the partners you're dealing with. Europe, as we do, has a well-established and comparable legal regime. And if, as Olivier mentioned, the trade negotiations underway right now with the United States and the European Union are successful and people are pushing those as quickly forward as they can go, that's going to open up a lot more opportunity in trade. So stand by for that. It's sort of odd, the U.S. has a lot of free trade agreements, not as many as some, but we have a lot. They tend to be in the Western Hemisphere. So, of course, NAFTA, U.S., Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, Panama, Chile. Then we have some in Australia. We have them in some places in Asia and the Pacific. But our major trading partner in Europe, EU, we don't. So this is really something that's been coming to do for a long time. And there's been a number of estimates, but the feeling is that if we manage to negotiate this agreement successfully, and those barriers to trade come down, and investment, service trade, agricultural trade, hopefully, as well as other trade, that's going to open up enormous new market opportunities on both sides. The other thing about Europe is that even though the growth of trade has been the strongest with Asia, when you look at investment, foreign investment, what we invest overseas and what other countries invest here, it's dominated by Europe. There is not a lot of Asian investment here yet, although it's growing. We want it to grow. We have a lot invested in Asia. However, there is much, much more investment from Europe than from anywhere else in the world. We have much more investment in Europe than we do anywhere else in the world. And investment drives opportunities. So these are large, sophisticated, wealthy economies, sophisticated markets, high technological capacity, a lot of synergy with us in the Bay Area in particular, which is why, despite some of the unhappy headlines we read sometimes about Europe in the paper, day to day, why we're focusing on Europe right now. So in this, to get to the bottom line, small companies play an important role. The Bay Area isn't just a partner for technology, but it's the global center, we're sure of that, for innovation and for entrepreneurship. We see entrepreneurs flooding in here every day, every week. I try to follow it and can't keep up from all around the world, literally everywhere in the world, to be part of this economy. Looking, of course, to access to venture capital, but looking equally for partnerships. And partnerships with Bay Area companies, partnerships with other companies from around the world who come here for the same purposes. And it's happening really in unprecedented numbers. So many overseas entities, governments at the national level, the provincial level, even the city level, have opened incubators and accelerators and landing pads of various types here in the Bay Area to help their entrepreneurs connect here and be part of this economy and this conversation. So again, it's not just about finding sales, although that's part of it. It's not just about finding venture capital, although that's part of it. It's about forging partnerships and identifying opportunities for partnerships with people here. So there are a ton of examples from Europe. We're starting as part of this study I mentioned to put this story together. We've just begun. This is very, very fragmentary. It's just a few names you've come up with, but there's a significant number of innovation centers that are foreign government sponsored, sometimes private. Danish Innovation Center here in Silicon Valley, SwissNext up in San Francisco. There's a big number of binational chambers of commerce that are also connectors. There's the French-American Chamber, there's the British-American Business Council, the German-American Business Association, GABA, the German-American Chamber, the Swiss-American Chamber, the California-Spain Chamber, the British Association, Italy-America, rather the Business Association, Italy-America. And we could go on. So there's a complex of binational business organizations called chambers or other things that are there to serve as connectors with those markets. There are also, which I think may be especially interesting or helpful to you, many of whom I think are entrepreneurs, are these incubators, accelerators, places that are designed essentially as landing pads where smaller, younger companies from around the world, in this case from Europe, are coming here in order to be introduced to partners and opportunities in the Bay Area, some of which may stay here very long term, other which come here and make the connections and go home and make them part of their business plan. So again, these are just a few of many more I'm sure we'll identify as time goes on. But there's a Bootstrap Lab from Sweden, L'Atelier, which is French, Mind the Bridge Foundation, which is focused on Italy, Orange Silicon Valley, which again is a French entity. There's a Siemens Technology and Business Center, which is over in Berkeley. Silicon Vikings, which is Vikings Scandinavia. Organizations, of course, such as the Plug and Play Technology Center that has multiple international landing pads for people from coming here from around the world, and others such as the Irish Technology Leadership Group, and I could go on and on. And this is in addition to the formal government trade and investment promotion offices such as IDA Ireland and many others. So when you look at this complex, which is many times larger than that, there's a tremendous foundation of institutional and networking opportunities to engage with potential partners from and in Europe. Again, many of these entities are here primarily for the transnational partnerships. You have an opportunity to engage with them. We have a benefit here in the Bay Area, by the way, of having maybe the richest base in the entire United States of service providers of all kinds, private sector service providers. You'll hear from some in a couple of minutes. That service the technology sector, to service people doing business internationally. And then we have this kind of institutional overlay on top of that. So because you're in the Bay Area, you have unique opportunities, probably more so than anywhere else in the U.S., to connect with these European partners. So I would urge you to think about looking at Europe, look for those opportunities, and look for the study that we're going to be releasing later this year on those connections. There will be a lot more detail. There will be a website that will have information posted on a continuous basis. And stay tuned. Thank you very much.